Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into the next team preview video. Today I am doing the Los Angeles Rams. What you can expect out of this video if this is a first-time listener. I'm gonna share you my feelings on Coach Sean McVay. Take a look at the team's remaining cap space. Guys have been on the team from the last couple years that are entering a contract year. Take a look at the offense, the defense. I give my overall feelings at the end of the episode. Now, when I do go over this offense, I do kind of share my feelings if there's guys I'm trying to draft for fantasy football, and I share that type of perspective on the roster as well. But yeah, that's what you can expect out of this. So I'm gonna go ahead and get going with today's episode. Coach Sean McVay. Love Coach McVay. I think he's one of the best coaches in the league. He hasn't had a losing season since he's joined the Rams. I still can't believe there were some people wondering if he should have had the job after they missed the playoffs 2 years ago when they still went 9-7. They were just in a highly competitive conference in the NFC at the time. And then you even look back to last year. A lot of people thought the Rams were going to be a pretty bad team. But Sean McVay got the best out of his roster, and he led the team to the playoffs, and they actually end up making to the divisional round and upset the Seahawks on the road, who actually won the NFC West last year. So I think very highly of him. He will get the best out of his roster, one of the best offensive minds in the game, and I mean, what's there to really pick apart? I mean, yeah, he hasn't won a Super Bowl yet, but he's just now entering his fifth season as a coach, and he already went to the Super Bowl a few years ago, and he just happened to run into the greatest coach of all time when he got to the Super Bowl. So yeah, I mean, he's still one of the best coaches in the league. Rams got a good one, and I guess that the only thing you want to see next out of him is to finally win the Super Bowl, I guess, which is pretty funny to ask when there's other coaches that have been at teams longer that haven't even reached the Super Bowl quite yet. So yeah, Sean McVay is one of the best coaches in the league, so credit to him. And I think he's just gonna it's already an early showing that McVay is one of those coaches that will get the best out of his roster no matter who's on it. So that's a very positive thing to have in your head coach. So let's just keep it moving then to the team remaining cap space. They're sitting around $7 million in cap space right now, so they have a little room to work with. If they wanted to bump up a pay raise and give a contract extension, if they wanted to maybe go and add somebody off of the market, maybe make a trade for somebody prior to the season. So they got a little bit of room to work with. Now, notable guys entering a contract here. There's only one guy that sticks out to me that they may work out something prior to the season. That's Darius Williams. He really came on strong last year. He really complimented Jalen Ramsey as the second best cornerback in that secondary, and I think he might be worthy of a contract extension. Now the thing is, you are kind of worried. Was that just like a 1 year wonder? I wouldn't call it a fluke, but you're just wondering if like maybe can he continue that type of play? So that's why I can see them maybe being hesitant on giving him a contract extension. Maybe see how he performs throughout the year, and then maybe work out something at the end of the season. If he indeed not only keeps up his level of play, but maybe even takes the next step as a player. So that's the one guy, Darius Williams, I could potentially see possibly them trying to work out something prior to the season. Austin Corbett, he's projected to be a starter, so we'll see if they want to keep him around. But I think that's a guy you can kind of wait to the end of the season. If his play is up to par, you can offer him a contract to see if he wants to stick with the team. Otherwise, maybe you can look at other center/guard options on the market or in the draft. And Sebastian Joseph Day, as good as he is at his role, that's a guy you can wait to the end of the season. Offer him a contract if he wants to stick around. They still got like a Greg Gaines right behind him that they drafted in the 4th round of the 19 draft class, if I remember that right. So there's maybe his potential replacement as well. So yeah, Darius Williams is the only guy I could see getting the contract extension. Now I'm going to go ahead and keep it moving to the offensive preview. Now these are the projected starters per Jake Ellenbogen. You can give Jake a follow on Twitter at JKBogan. And now something I'm starting to do, I should have been doing on all my preview videos. I do want to note, guys, like these projected starters, we put this together in the Prospect Encyclopedia it was all turned in at the beginning of July. Final editors got onto it at the end of August before release, so sometimes these projected starters might not be as up to date now that we're like 2 weeks in the training camp. Guys have maybe been hurt. Guys have maybe been shuffled around the line. The reason why I say that is because we are on Jake's, and by the way, go subscribe to Jake's YouTube channel, especially if you're a Rams fan. He pumps out content on the daily. He's one of the hardest workers in the biz. But yeah, I think Jake mentioned on our roundtable show for the Prospect Encyclopedia on his channel, I think he said Brian Allen, I think, is going to be starting at center. So his projected line might not be as up to date, but Jake will always keep the Rams fans as up to date as possible on what's going on with the team. So that's why you want to make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel, give him a follow on Twitter. But yeah, I just want to make a note of that. And then if you do see any stars next to these names, that means Jake wrote up a scouting report for the upcoming season on that player, and that's inside the Prospect Encyclopedia. To make the Rams top 22 list, you have to be from the last 3 draft classes, less than 12 career regular season starts. So these are guys gaining NFL experience still. They range anywhere from core special team guys all the way to future superstars of the league. So let's just go ahead and get this going. Matthew Stafford was obviously the biggest addition for this Rams team this offseason. They moved on from Jared Goff, rightfully so. Jared was never going to, get them over the hump of taking their offense to the next level, and they're betting on that guy, Matthew Stafford, to do that for them. And I'm put me in the camp of the believer that Matthew Stafford is going to help elevate the play of this offense. He's got a cannon of an arm. He's not afraid to take a shot downfield. He can make this offense more explosive because of his ability to push the ball down the field. He's a warrior, so he'll battle through injuries if he needs to. And he's always been one of the more, I guess, underrated quarterbacks in the league. Nobody has ever really considered him, in the top 5. And I'm not saying he's a top 5 quarterback now. I'm just saying he's been more of like that top 10 to 15 quarterback, more around the top 10, more years than not. But now he's dealt with a back injury a couple years ago. He's getting towards the back end of his career. But I do believe this is a way, with a new change of scenery, I could see Matthew Stafford getting rejuvenated and having a second half of his career that finishes really strong and puts him up there as one of the more respected quarterbacks to play this game. I think he's going to have a huge year in LA. I think him and Sean McVay are going to basically carve up defenses together with both their minds, because Matthew Stafford is a very smart quarterback, and I think he's going to elevate the play of the others within this offense and help take their games to the next level as well. Now, as far as fantasy quarterback, I could definitely see myself taking a shot on Matthew Stafford. He always kind of was like a fantasy top 10 quarterback, and now you put him in the LA offense. Unfortunately, with the loss of Cam Akers, I don't think they're going to be as dependent on the run that you were maybe thinking prior to the season. And then I think he's got a number of guys he could spread the ball to. Obviously, they still got Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. I'm a big Van Jefferson fan. They brought in Deshaun Jackson for those deep shots. They also drafted Tutu Atwell in the second round. So they got a number of wide receivers to spread the ball to. They still got Tyler Higby. There's some buzz around Jacob Harris in their camps. So he's going to probably have a number of guys he can utilize and carve up defenses with. And he doesn't have to depend on one guy like he always had to do in Calvin Johnson there in Detroit. So I'm expecting a huge year out of Stafford. He's a guy, I wouldn't mind drafting and seeing how it plays out, but you just got to keep an eye on how that situation unfolds and seeing if he is definitely worthy of a week in and week out starter as a fantasy quarterback. I'm gonna keep it moving to the running back position. Like I just mentioned, unfortunately, Cam Akers did get hurt. He was set to have a huge year for LA. But now Darrell Henderson will slide into his spot. Darrell Henderson, I always kind of liked. I believe I was looking up my old rankings. I think he was either the number 5 or 6 running back for me in his class. So he's a guy I was pretty high on coming out of Memphis, and then he's kind of dealt with injuries. He's been more of a change of pace back, but anytime he's got a chance to get the workload there, he's been able to be productive. He can catch the ball. He's got good speed and agility in open space. So he's going to more than likely be the guy that leads touches. Now, there is some buzz around Xavier Jones as well, might be working in that rotation. So it might be a 1-2 punch between the two. So you want to see how that unfolds in terms of fantasy. Who's going to be this guy in the Rams backfield? I definitely do lean towards Henderson because they have an invested second round pick in him, and I think he can take that next step. He just has to prove that he could stay healthy and stay inside that lineup and not lose his role. And the way I view Darrell Henderson, I think he's got the upside where if he ends up getting the touches you were going to think about Akers, he could end up being a steal. I'm just not trying to draft him super high in drafts, to be quite honest. I view him more as that flex RB3 range right now. And then if everything goes right for him in this Rams offense, he could be an RB2 if he's going to see that consistent touch load out of that backfield. But overall, it's just solid running back group, I would say, for now, if they end up going to the running back by committee. Now, taking a look at their wide receiver group, it's pretty much set, everybody in their roles. You take a look at Robert Woods, everybody knows he's been basically an wide receiver 2 for the last few years that can give you wide receiver 1 numbers on any given week. Robert Woods has the 6th most receptions since 2018. He has 266, and I don't expect his role to change at all. He's basically going to have the same role this year. He's going to be used on end arounds. He's going to be used on crossers. He's a really good route runner, and he's going to be a vital part of that offense. He's a guy I don't mind taking because you know what you're going to get out of Robert. And that same thing goes for Cooper Kupp too. Cooper Kupp is actually one of 8 players since with a season of 80 plus receptions, 1,000 plus yards, and 10 plus touchdowns since 2018. And he's a really good route runner. He's going to work inside the slot. And he's another guy his role's not going to change. You know what you're going to get out of Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp in terms of fantasy. Those guys are wide receiver 2 to 3s, depending on where you can get them in your draft. You know you can count on them every week, and you know some weeks they might just have an average week, and then on any given week they could give you a wide receiver 1 week. So I'm happy drafting either Woods or Kupp. I know they usually go around each other in drafts around the same range. So either way, I'm happy with those 2 guys, and they're going to be a vital they're going to be a vital part of this Rams offense once again in 2021. Now, the guy I'm very excited about is Van Jefferson. For those that really know me in terms of scouting and stuff, I really fell in love with Van Jefferson in his draft process last year, especially seeing him live at the Senior Bowl. I think he's one of the better route runners in his class that came out that year. And I think he's going to continue his development this year. He's going to have a bigger role this year because now he's got a year within the scheme. He's going to understand how to work within for Mcvay and get open for the wide receiver, get open for Matthew Stafford. And I think his route running ability is going to benefit this offense because more likely than not, like Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, they're going to demand the presence of defensive coordinators' game plans. So Van Jefferson is going to get a lot of one-on-one opportunities, and if you can line him up against like a linebacker or maybe kind of a slower cornerback, he's going to be able to work his way open and take advantage of the other guys opening up things for him. In terms of fantasy, this might not be the year to own Van in fantasy just because there's so many mouths to feed in this Rams offense. But if anything were to happen to Robert Woods or Cooper Kupp at any point of this year, if they have to miss time, make sure you go scoop up Van Jefferson. That's going to be the name that you want to grab if any injuries were to occur on this roster. Now, their wide receiver room doesn't stop there. That guys are going to work in. Like I mentioned, they signed Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun's not going to have a full-time role. You don't want that for him. You just want to work him in, on certain plays, certain deep shots. that can open up things for the offense and stretch out the field as well. Now, since 2018, Deshaun still has the most yards per receptions by a wide receiver at 18.2. So he's going to have a small role in the offense. I don't expect him to have a lot amount of his snaps. He's he's dealt with injuries, it seems like, every year at this point of his career, now that he's at the back end of it. So if they can just keep him healthy, just keep him in the rotation when they need him to take that deep shot with Stafford, I think he's going to benefit this offense. And then they got Tutu Atwell. They spent a second round pick on him. I think they're going to utilize him in certain packages. We kind of saw in that Rams preseason game last week, he's going to be used as a punt returner, but he can take screens, get a good chunk, 10 to 20 yards. He can also help replace Deshaun. You could actually send both of them like right there in the middle. Now I'm starting to think creative with the offense, how you could utilize Tutu and Deshaun at the same time, have Robert and Cooper, 4 wide receiver sets, stuff like that. So if I'm thinking about stuff like that, I'm sure Sean McVay has thought about a million things more, that how he can utilize all these wide receivers at once if he'd like to. So again, though, Deshaun and Tutu, even like I mentioned with Van, they're not guys you want to draft in fantasy, but they're going to elevate this offense. It's explosive playmaking ability. And then their tight end, Tyler Higby, is now the starter. Let's just go ahead and take a look at Tyler Higby since 2018. Among tight ends, he's got the 8th most receiving yards, and that he's tied for the 10th most receptions. He's a very solid tight end who fits his role in the Rams offense. He was definitely, I was one of the guys warning people in fantasy last year, do not draft Tyler Higby because he's going to be inconsistent in terms of fantasy. That turned out to be true, so I hope if you guys were listeners of mine last year, I hope you did pay attention to that. But yeah, as far as fantasy this year, if you want to maybe take a gamble on him, I can understand. Maybe these wide receivers open up things for Tyler. As solid as a tight end as he is, I'm going to be avoiding him once again because I don't think he's going to be a consistent fantasy tight end. Like I just mentioned, there's 5 wide receivers I think that are going to work in the rotation and see a certain amount of targets. And then you're hearing a lot of positive things out of Jacob Harris. I'm not saying Jacob Harris is going to be a fantasy tight end. I'm just saying if the positive news around him is true and it plays into the season, Jacob Harris is probably going to work in sometimes in the rotation, especially when they get down to the red zone. So yeah, I'm avoiding Tyler Higby this year, again, just because even though with Gerald Everett going up to Seattle, I don't think his role is going to increase. I think it's going to just remain the same, and he's just going to play to his fullest abilities, which is great for the team, but not great for your fantasy football roster. And then taking a look at the line, like I said, I believe it sounds like Jake said, I believe on the round table that Brian Allen should be starting at center. I think maybe they're kicking Corbett to the guard position over Evans. Not 100% sure, but this is the offensive unit line that actually not want to say like overly impressed last year, but I was definitely one of the people that were like, I don't know about this offensive line. There's a lot of people that are kind of worried about this offensive line last year, and they were able to make it work and was able to get a positive run game, especially in that back end of the year when Cam Akers was coming really on strong. Towards the end of the season, this unit kind of started to gel together. They get Andrew Whitworth back. I know he had a missed time last year with an injury. I like David Edwards, obviously, because he's a Wisconsin guy. And we'll have to see how the rest of the interior offensive line plays out. Rob Havenstein, I think, is a solid right tackle as well. It's just I wouldn't say it's an overly impressive group. I think it's a solid offensive line, and I think Sean McVay has done a really good job developing his scheme that suits the offensive line that he has, that could still help move the ball on the ground. So I think it's a solid group as long as Andrew Whitworth can stay healthy throughout the year and they don't have to dive into their depth at all. Overall, with this offense, like I said, I think with the addition of Matthew Stafford, I think you're going to see a more explosive offense. I think you're going to see potential it should be at least a top 10 offense under Sean McVay with the addition of Stafford, adding explosive playmakers like Deshaun Jackson. We'll see if Tutu Atwell can add that. But like I said, you got the mainstays in Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp that are going to be highly productive, and we'll see if Van Jefferson could take a year 2 step. And then the biggest, I think, factor on this offense is going to be the running back group. Can Darrell Henderson be the guy? And then if he can't, is it Xavier Jones? And if he can't, can there be some type of combination of their backfield that can help produce yards on the ground, because they don't want to be too dependent. They don't want to have to put everything on Matthew Stafford's back, because he already had to do enough of that in Detroit. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and keep this moving to the defensive preview. Again, these are the projected starters per Jake Ellenbogen. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel, and you can give him a follow at JK Bogan on Twitter. Now, taking a look at their defense, they were coming off a very impressive year where they were the best defense last year underneath Brandon Staley. Now, he is now the head coach of the Chargers. They bring in, why did I draw a break? Raheem, the guy from Atlanta's defensive coordinator last year, who took over as the interim head coach. So we'll have to see how this unit performs underneath him. But taking a look at it as a whole, breaking down their defensive interior defensive front, they got A'Shawn Robinson, who's solid. Like I mentioned, Sebastian Joseph Day, he's good in his role. And then obviously they got the beast himself, the juggernaut, Aaron Donald. I mean, this guy, we are witnessing history. I mean, obviously you got Lawrence Taylor. You got a number of other guys. You can make an argument for the best player in NFL history to play defense. But man, I'm not sure by the end of the day when he retires, if we're not talking about we just witnessed the best player to ever play defense in the NFL history. Taking a look at Aaron Donald since 2018, he's got the most sacks at 46.5, the most tackles for a loss at 59, the second most quarterback hits at 93, and he's tied for the fourth most fumbles. The dude just lives in backfields. If you don't double team him, he's gonna make your guard or center, or if they line him outside on tackle, he's going to embarrass them. So you always got to consider double teaming him, which makes things easier on Robinson and Joseph Day, and also guys like Leonard Floyd. We saw Leonard Floyd last year turn his career around after being labeled a bust in Chicago. He comes to LA, gets to play with Aaron Donald, and all of a sudden his sacks go all the way up. And then he gets a huge payday from LA because of it. So I'm not sure if he's giving a portion of his salary to Aaron Donald, but he should definitely consider it. But I mean, I don't like to take discredit players, but I mean, at the end of the day, I feels like if I would line up next to Aaron Donald on a play, like I feel like I can maybe wiggle my way through that offensive line, because he's going to demand their presence when they look at a little white boy right next to him. So maybe I could even get a sack lining up with Aaron Donald. But yeah, so obviously I think highly of Aaron Donald. You know, he's a legend. I mean, and he's not going to stop this year. So yeah, do I need to go further on him? But yeah, now the interior line, because of Aaron Donald, is very, very good. Leonard Floyd, like I said, he to his credit, he performed in his role, and that's all you can ask out of him. He came in, he got the sacks, he did what was asked out of him. So they got a guy on the edge that can create pressure, a nice little 1-2 punch with him and Aaron Donald. Now, where you get concerned now is the other opposite side of Leonard Floyd. Can you get consistent pressure on the opposite side as well? Jake has Tyrell Lewis projected as a starter. Now, I believe he's still dealing with something in his knee. I'm not sure if he's going to have to miss time at the beginning of the season. I was a big Tyrell Lewis fan when he came out of Alabama, but there was always concerns with Tyrell Lewis's health. So you got to wonder if maybe a Justin Hollins or somebody else might have to work in the rotation. But if they can at least get some type of slightly production out of there, that should help out. And where I also wonder is their inside linebacker position. It seems like it's been a turntable at that position. They're just trying to find somebody that can do the job. They once had Corey Littleton. He was probably their best guy, but obviously they didn't want to pay him the money that he got from the Raiders. They drafted Ernest Jones, so we'll have to see if he can come in and deliver as a rookie. And then Jake's got Troy Howard as a starter. Now, other guys like Micah Kaiser and Kenny Young used to work in the rotation as well. So we'll just have to see how their inside linebacker group works out. I think that's kind of like where my point at this defense, like they might struggle to defend that middle area during coverage situations, and they might struggle to be, that if a running back can break through the first wave of the defensive front, I wonder if the second level is going to be able to do enough to help stop the run. But then you go back to their secondary. It's a very strong secondary that can benefit the good defensive front of the defense. Jalen Ramsey is the best cornerback in the league. I am not afraid to, I mean, who shouldn't be afraid to say that? I know you can make arguments for other guys, but that guy is super athletic. He's got lockdown coverage. He's very instinctive. He's one of the smartest players to play the position. And the fact that they got Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, you got arguably two of the best defenders at their positions. So Jalen Ramsey is a guy that can win Defensive Player of the Year himself as well. And then Darius Williams, I already mentioned, he was a really good surprise for the LA Rams defense last year. So they got a nice cornerback tandem with those two. We'll have to see if David Long Jr. can finally take that step in his play. He's kind of been a slight disappointment. I was looking at my old rankings last night. He was a top 10 quarterback for me in this class. So obviously I thought he could be decent. So we'll see if he can step up. And then I think they got a nice trio of safeties they can work in on certain packages. Jordan Fuller he was a really good surprise. I think he was undrafted, and he came in and I think at one point his rookie year, wasn't he about to win? Not about to win, but I think at one point people were thinking about him as a defensive rookie of the year honors, and maybe he got hurt. I do apologize, my memory is not serving me right on Fuller, but he was a good surprise. And he ended up winning that starting job because of his play. Tyrell Burgess is a guy I was a big fan of coming out of Utah last year. He kind of was banged up last year, so he had to miss some time. But I think he could be a good, strong safety. He can work inside the box. He's got experience where he can line him up inside the slot, so he's very versatile. And then you look at Taylor Rapp. Taylor Rapp, to me, was a top 5 safety in his class. He came on really strong as a rookie. I'm not sure what happened in year 2, but I think he could set to have a huge year 3. He's another guy that can be a versatile chess piece for this Rams defense. And I wouldn't be surprised if they use Fuller, Burgess, and Rapp on packages and use 3 safeties throughout games, especially on those third down situations. So overall, I think this still will be a strong defense once again this year. I just have my concerns where, can there be consistent edge pressure opposite of Leonard Floyd? How is this inside linebacker group going to work out? Other than that, it's going to be a strong defensive unit. It can return to that being a top 10 defensive unit. I just wonder if it'll be a top number 1 defense just because of the interior, with the worries I just mentioned, and with the change of the defensive coordinator as well. And then, overall for this team, I have high expectations for the Rams. I believe that, with them being a winning program ever since Sean McVay took over with Jared Goff, I think Matthew Stafford is 10 times better than Jared Goff. So, I have high expectations for their offense to take it to the next level. I think this offense is going to have more explosive plays. It has the makings of a top 10 offense as long as the offensive line can gel and they can figure out that situation. And then if Darrell Henderson or a combination of Darrell Henderson and Xavier Jones can be productive on the ground, because I don't think the biggest worry for me, the offense for me, is if they get too dependent on Matthew Stafford. I think that's what you don't want. I think he adds a good element to the offense, but I don't think you want to be like a 70-80% pass team with him. I think if for once in his career he can have a nice balance of having a healthy rushing attack to go with his big arm and take those deep shots on play action plays, I think that's where you can work your way up to that top 5 offense with this running back group in the offensive line if they can deliver, and then you got the number of wide receiver skill position players in the wide receiver room and the tight end room. And their defense, you got Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. Is there enough said on that? Obviously you need that in the inside linebacker group, the guys opposite of Floyd to step up. But other than that, it's a very strong defense that can once again crack inside a top 10 defense. So the biggest concern though as well is they are in the NFC West. So how will they survive the gauntlet? I think after doing the reviews of all NFC West teams now, I lean towards this division coming down between the Rams and the Cardinals, but the 49ers and the Seahawks have enough to push for the division title as well. So it's going to come down to how they play within the division, but I do expect this team to crack into the playoffs, whether as the NFC West division winner or as a wild card. And then it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds, because I think they have enough to make for a deep playoff push, barring any health concerns throughout the season. But yeah, that's my preview for today, guys. Again, I always appreciate anybody that tunes into these videos, especially if you watch this whole thing. I really do appreciate that. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit the like button. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please hit that subscribe button. Trying to get that going, guys. I want to pump up as many subscribers as I can prior to the NFL season starting. And then the next team I will be doing will be the Cleveland Browns. I'll be doing that tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. And then lastly, I'll plug this again at the end of the video. The Prospect Encyclopedia. It's out, guys. Go get it. So again, what that is the Prospect Encyclopedia is it's all 32 teams get a top 22 player list. Again, to make that list, you have to be from the last 3 draft classes, less than 12 regular season starts. There's other qualifiers for it as well. And you can get the entire Prospect Encyclopedia for $15. You just go to prospectencyclopedia.com where you can order the PDF. I was on my tablet last night at the end of the day and reading through that, reading all the other great writers' work. Kudos to them. I really am enjoying that as I work my way through it. And keep in mind too, if you are say you're a Rams fan that watched this video, you can get the Rams section that Jake wrote for just $1. So if you're a fan of any other team, you just want to read about your team, you can go get it for $1. But why not just get all 32 teams for $15? So go check it out. Go get it ordered. I'll see you guys when I do the Browns video.